All right, everybody, we are set to begin. Nice turnout at the end. You see, you build it and it will come. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first annual Spiritual Chosen Book Festival. We're live at Alternity Cafe. I'm your MC for today, Jonathan A. Cohen. I'm author of the book, The Bible 3.0, and I'll be coming on at some point talking about that book. But today, I want to talk about the festival. I want to talk about all the wonderful energy and people that are joining us today. You have 7 wonderful authors that have given their time and energy to be here and join us. And in the world realm of spirituality, but each of us, as I've gotten to speak to everyone, it's 7 different speeches and talks, and it's just going to be a lot of fun energy. Everyone will come up for about 10 minutes or so to discuss. And the one question I've been asked as I've been approached today, and I thought it was going to come up, is why are we here? How did this thing get born? And I'll tell you very simply, coming to the space in Alternity, I was lucky enough to have my book launch here. So my book launched in January, and my videographer, I was telling him, I need a space, I need an event space, and I'm screwed, I don't know where to go, what do we do? And he said, oh, you know Airbnb, and you know Turo? Well, there's a space like that to find event spaces. So I went on there, and I put in my criteria, and I got like 80 spaces. And I thought, okay, this is like way too much. I narrowed down, and then I'm down to 7. And I keep sticking to this one called Alternity. I'm like, Alternity, this seems like a cool vibe. I want to go check it out. That's the only one I want to go to. I showed up here, I met Dominique, and I said to her, and you sell books too. Okay, we have to host it here. You have to find a date for me. And by hook and by crook, we made it happen. The book launched. And I came another week afterwards, grabbed a smoothie, sitting with Dominique, talking about the space, and thank you so much for the book launch. And I told her, you have a lot of interesting looking books and a lot of interesting looking authors here that as far as the vibes and the titles, wouldn't it be cool if all the authors kind of came together and talked about their stories? And she said, you know what, if you want to host it and you want to do it, let's do it. So we started doing phone calls and emails, and few weeks, months later, and this thing was born. So I want to thank all of you for showing up today and for hearing our stories, and for the authors for their timing. And I wanted to give a little inspiration, I guess, as far as every venture needs kind of a mandate or a mission statement, so to speak. The goal of this festival was to bring passion and mindfulness to Toronto. With 7 diverse authors, their books, their messages all being unique, let's bring their shared energy and a glimpse into the Toronto spiritual book scene. Hear each authors, discuss their works, what the messages behind them are. You know, feel free to mingle with everybody. You can get autographs, pictures, you know, definitely grab yourself a drink, food at Alternity here, and kind of enjoy and feel relaxed, you know. In the world we live in today and what you read in the media and kind of the messages, today is all about bringing back love and positivity to the world. You know what? Let's learn to love ourselves, love each other again, and let's bring good energy to the world. And mindfully, with the universe showing us what we can offer, let's look in within ourselves, and let's decide after today what messages we get, and let's be the best us that we can be. So on that token, welcome, welcome, welcome. The first author gets the big anvil on his shoulders, but I know he's going to be handling it well. He's Mr. Kazra Kushafar and his book, Realizations. I got to tell you all, I talked to this guy for about half an hour the first time we were on the phone. I'm like, dude, where do you live? I got to know. Turns out he lives down the street from me, okay? Of course, like it just worked out that way, and we just had a really good vibe and everything. Kaz with Love, as he's known in social media, multifaceted writer and poet, self-published book Realizations, part of many artistic organizations, a member of Posey. He's looking to broaden the boundaries of poetry and self-expression and to be an inspiration to other fellow writers and artists. So I'm letting you know, check out his podcast, check out his social media. Really excited to hear what he has to say. So without further ado, Kazra, you got the floor.
Thank you. I don't need to use the mic, right?
No, I just,
okay?
and for everybody who's speaking today, you could choose to use the mic. I decide not to, but you could just run with it.
Okay. I think it's a good enough space, and I think I could project enough for you guys to hear me. I do want to say a few things, of course. Thank you to absolutely Jonathan for putting this together because myself as well, every time I came, whether it was to just look around into Alternity or grab a drink or stock books, it was always like, these are such cool and interesting people. And to be a part of that, I would always take a picture and I would always like share it on social media to be like, I get to be a part of the local artists here. And I find that being in this city, I was raised here, but looking at other cities like New York and Los Angeles, even Montreal, where they have a huge creative, spiritual art scene, it always made me think, well, where does Toronto fit in this? And so when I was writing my book, my whole thought process was, I don't really want to give away the control and kind of creative control to a publisher. I mean, I didn't really know exactly what that process looked like. I just knew it was filled with rejection. I don't have a problem with rejection, but I just felt, I don't feel like waiting years upon years where this idea might not even come into fruition. So I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this endeavor all by myself. I'm gonna do the writing, which was the easy part. Most people think it's the hard part. That's the easy part. And once that was done and I got to editing and designing the book and diving into Adobe InDesign and realizing how much I hate my life because of it, and then now I love it, but then every step of the process when it came to, okay, well, the book's almost designed. How do I get this to people? I don't want to put it on Amazon. I didn't want to do like a Kindle audiobook version of it because a physical book was very important for me. So then it was like, all right, I got to create a website. That was another step of the way. Then I'm like, okay, now I have to market and distribute it. I know there are bookstores in the city, and also that's when I got into actually performing poetry. And when I got into that space, I came to the realization, no pun intended, that we're all within these creative bubbles and everybody's doing their own thing. You get into a certain space, you know, like this, for example, look how many people are here. You go into the next event and there's something else, an open mic or whatever else going on, a whole ton of other people. And I remember speaking to a fellow poet at one of the events where I do on the spot poetry. And he was like, why don't we try our best to connect everyone? You know, everybody's in their bubble. Maybe one of the reasons why cities like New York that's so progressed in their creative communities is because they've been able to bring it together. And so I think what you've done, Jonathan, is a huge step in that, to bring everybody together and, you know, instead of competing as creatives, we can have a community where we all can succeed. I went to a therapy session, Dundas West, and after the session, you know, you got to take a little walk and get the thoughts out. I started to hit these random thrift stores, and when I hit one of them, the guy was like, "Hey, by the way," he's like, "Hey, by the way, here's a little card. Here's all the thrift stores in this neighborhood. These are the names. Hit up every single one." I was like, "That's so interesting." In my head, I saw everybody like competing as a business, whereas they've came together and are like, instead of competition, you know, when you step into my store, why not I recommend the next person? Because maybe we don't have it, but the next does, or vice versa. And so it's, you know, when you came to me about this event, I thought it was a beautiful idea because I'm usually the odd one in my spaces where it's like, oh, you write, you have a book, well, that's amazing, you know, unheard of. But here, it's like everybody's like myself, everybody's creative, everybody's spiritual, everybody has their own book. And I'm very excited to hear what everybody else's process is like. I will say that this journey to get this book has not only allowed me to be confident in myself and my abilities, but also to put myself in spaces that I never thought I would be in. And my life trajectory has completely changed. It went from, I guess I like to write, to now I can call myself a professional writer. And I think to be here amongst even better writers like yourselves is truly an honor. So thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you everyone for being who you guys are. I'm excited to see what you guys have to say. I'm excited to hear what Jonathan has to say about his own book. That's kind of it.
First, what's your book? What is it about?
Okay, yes. So the book is it started off not as a book. It started off as an idea to write for 365 days every day. It actually got inspired by Atomic Habits. I don't know who's read that book. Very powerful book. But when I read that book, I was like, okay, a page a day. Let's see where that takes me. And about a quarter way in, the idea sort of became these daily realizations. You know, I always struggled with writing every day because how do you capture every thought, every emotion? There's no way. But then when I started to do this, I was like, it doesn't matter about all the thoughts and emotions. You just need to capture one a day. So whenever the poetry gods hit me for that day, I would capture what I thought. And about a quarter way in, I was like, maybe this can actually become a book. Maybe like this can turn into something. So I kind of kept that idea in mind. And as it progressed, I started to realize that it wasn't just a creative journey. I was actually realizing who I was as a person. And writing wasn't just a hobby at that point. It was like, this is my life's purpose. And you could see that. So there's 3 chapters. The first one's called The Knowing. So it was about, what do I know about the world? What do I know about myself? And then it turned into The Becoming. It was like, let me become this person that I think I am. And then the third chapter, it was called The Ascension, which was like basically rising above it and not just becoming it, but being it. And the chapters were divided into 3 journals that I went through. So I physically have 3 journals that the book was like composed in. And towards the end, I'll try not to drag this on too much. Towards the end, I came to a point where I'm like, how the hell do I end this? Like, I could write every day for the rest of my life and there won't be an ending. You know, how do you conclude your life's journey? And initially I'm like, okay, well, maybe the book sells out and I become this world-renowned writer. And I was like, that can't be it. There's no way. Like, is it a new job? None of those were it. And I won't give the ending in case anybody wants to read it, but there came to a point where it was exactly as it was meant to be. And the ending, I'll say a quote by Albert Camus, which he says in The Myth of Sisyphus. I don't know if anybody's read that book, where he says, he's like, usually the last page of a book is contained within the first pages of it. And so when I was writing it, I remember I was at this park in like Midtown, and I was like, that's it right there, like it's connecting to the beginning. And so the book eventually I put together. I used the picture of my old apartment where I used to take pictures of the sunrise and sunsets because it was like north and south facing, so you could see both. So I used the cover of that because that was like a phase where I loved sunsets. I still do. And then I went through hell and back to put the book together, and it's done phenomenal, like way beyond my wildest imagination. And this was like, it was written 4 years ago, came out 2 years ago, but now I'm at a point where I'm writing the next one. And who knows what that has in store for me. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for listening.
We're going to play Pass the Baton. You can clip this one on. Thank you very much, Cass. Part of the thinking I had before today's event was I was looking at the books there and I thought to myself, I don't want to read any of their books before I actually meet them, hear them, and I'll see it so differently. And after speaking with you on the phone and now seeing you in person, my thought now is the same thought I had when we first spoke was, if the world is filled with more Kazras, the world would be a much better place. So thank you for bringing your energy into our universe. Our next speaker, Emily Sadowski, very engaging, amazing woman. I got to know her briefly as today's event started. And her book is What is Intuition? Resonance, Connection, and Trusting Intuition on Its Own Terms. Reading through your bio, Emily, I feel I need to go back to school and I need to get myself upgraded. You are setting the bar really, really high. She writes, teaches, coaches smart, sensitive leaders in cultivating their self-awareness and self-compassion so they can connect with inner genius and trust their inner knowing. I can't tell you how many leaders I've been around that put themselves as a title as leader, but have no idea what that actually involves. And I wish every leader would take your course and be able to understand that. So, not to lead this way, but to lead this way, and we need that more in our world. Not only she's teaching it, she's obsessed with leadership and transformative inner work that leads people and cultures to change. Her work sits at the intersection of spirituality, meaning-making, existentialism, and collective liberation. She's like your most woo professor, but your least woo self-development mentor. I love that. I actually read that to myself like 10 times, and very, very well said. Her book is What is Intuition? Presenting a visionary framework for authorizing intuition as a trustworthy way of knowing in service of relating to our uncertain world in nourishing, ethical ways. Wow. Well said. Can't wait to hear you say it.
Okay,
And come on up.
Okay, thank you.
We got Emily.
I'm gonna maybe use the mic. I don't know.
It's available if you want to. It's yours.
What does it sound like in the mic? Any different? Maybe it's not even on.
Might not be on.
How about now? Yeah? Okay, sometimes it's just an accessibility thing. I like when people can hear me. Hi, I'm Emily. I prepared some notes. I don't trust my own memory anymore. And I'm really, really happy to be here. I'm thrilled, actually, to meet lots of other people. I know that our books are very, very different from each other, and that is so very exciting. And also our work in the world, whatever that is. Not only what we're doing from here on, but also like what brought us to our writing in the first place. So please come check out my book. It's just up the stairs. It's yellow and blue. It's yellow and blue on purpose because I wanted it to appeal to people who are reading self-development books in corporate culture, in coaching culture, as opposed to people who are reading books, and this, I mean this with like so much love, in spaces like this, because I'm really aiming to bridge the ideas in my book and bring them to people who wouldn't necessarily find themselves already in these kinds of spaces. So yeah, that's a little bit, you'll see my book. I don't know about you, but I never heard about intuition growing up. Like, I never knew that it existed. I never knew that it was a thing. Nobody ever talked to me about intuition or gut feelings or in any capacity. Without disrespect to my family, it just wasn't available or like something that we thought about. Nobody credited it for things that they knew. And so I never understood that it was something that I could also be. But at some point in my life, as like a seeker, somebody born with just an innate curiosity about consciousness and existence, I found my way to basically a genre of book, a kind of book that was teaching people how to develop their intuition. I just have this core memory now. It was on a housemate's bookshelf, a book by like a very famous teacher of this stuff, Sonia Choquette, and I read that book literally in an afternoon. I was like, what is this? I wanted it, and I related to it, and then I was kind of mad, like, why hadn't I ever heard of this before? So, long story short, I have been an academic. I've been, in school a lot. I've been studying education and leadership and social justice and education, and yes, how people change, but also how cultures change to become better, ultimately, right? And so I went into a PhD program in education, and I was really looking at why not only my family had never taught me about intuition, but my education had definitely never introduced this idea. So I was digging and looking for intuition anywhere that I could find it. I did end up finding it here and there. And the way that people were defining intuition there was as something that was like definitely not woo, okay? So it was like fast thinking or it had an explanation as something that was rational. Like, don't worry, it's just normal. It's just something that, you know, is happening behind the scenes of your thinking, a very analytic explanation for what intuition was. And that did not accord. It wasn't the same as what I was seeing in these New Age books that were teaching people how to develop their intuition, and that was really interesting for me. So I kind of undertook this very long-term study to find out, what do we believe intuition is, and why does that matter? So what is the framework, the worldview, the analysis, the beliefs that we have that show us what we think intuition is? Is it the voice of God? Is it the voice of angels? Is it something that is just happening in our brain that we could probably see on a brain scan? I also didn't believe that you have to believe in certain things to be intuitive. Like, if I don't believe in angels, that shouldn't prevent me from having a connection to intuition. So again, always trying to bridge. And I realized that intuition only makes sense to me, using an understanding of consciousness, truth, self, knowledge, the experience of intuition, like bridging all these things. And what we get is a survey, which you'll see in the book, of intuitive experience itself. So starting with what it feels like to have an intuitive experience. And then we walk through a quantum akashic framework where intuition makes sense. It's a relationship of resonance and connection that relies on us, a knower, who's prepared to be intuitive, who is receptive and aware of their awareness, basically. And for me, what that also ended up doing, because I'm an educator and I'm interested in the inner work that people can do to change, is it points to a coherent program of practice. So the program of practice is also in the book. It's not a how-to book. It's really a why-to book, like why we should do this. But the framework is our mindset. So what we believe intuition is, the stories we're telling ourselves about not only who we are and what we can do, but what everything is, the metaphysics, basically. So mindset, awareness, and that means like being receptive, having ourselves prepared to be receptive to intuitive information, being in a flow state, meditation and contemplative practice. And the third piece is discernment. So once we receive intuitive information, first of all, do we know how to make sense of it? And also, what do we do with it? And if anything. And so it's really a practice of authority and feeling like we have agency in the world to act on our intuition, and also to claim our intuition, because actually it is a valid way of knowing. And that's also part of what I'm doing in the book. So now I teach and mentor others to connect with their intuition based on who they are and how they are. A lot of self-awareness practice. And I'm about to start an 8-month program of living intuition, so living an intuitive life. Basically, I'm not really talking about psychic stuff, although psychic stuff too, but really just being in touch with ourselves, our lives, and our context to make excellent choices and like be authentic. So the book also contains, I want to mention, a discussion guide. So if you're interested in these kinds of ideas about consciousness and quantum reality, there's some excellent questions you can download at its website, whatisintuition.ca. There's also a practice guide there, although I feel like in this room I might be talking to people who are already aware of some of the practices that you can do to connect with your intuition. I am working on a second book. It's more about the practices. It's not only about the specific practices you can do, but it's about a life of intentional practice and what it means to be invested in self-development. I hope it's going to be out next fall. I have been self-publishing. I'd love to talk to anyone who has been on the self-publishing journey, and we can commiserate together. So the secret agenda of What is Intuition is to talk about consciousness entanglement, uncertainty, non-duality, and the ways that we're all connected. And the ways that we affect and are affected by the multidimensional living systems that we're all part of. As I write in the conclusion, our world needs this now. Both the perspective and the inner work that brings about a more intuitive way of living in the world. So that's my talk. Thank you so much. Yeah, I look forward to talking to you more. Okay.
Thank you very much, Emily, for your talk. And just let everybody know that aside from our speeches today, also, we do have tarot card reading. Yulika's over there, right in the corner. So if you feel like having your palm read, tarot card reading, and learning what your future is ahead of time, Yulika's the woman to speak to. We're going to have another talk, and then we're going to be doing a group meditation, all from the same person. Jane's going to be coming up shortly. One person, so it's funny when you set this thing up and you have a book festival and you're like, okay, I'm going to have 8 authors are going to come in. It's going to be fabulous. Let's do 8. Hopefully all 8 show up. We came very close. We're going to have 7. 1 dropped off. I got the email on Thursday, did my COVID test, and could not show up. So Nevin Parr will not be able to be with us today. Nevin sends his apologies. We wish him a speedy recovery, and Nevin will join us for the next one. Very interesting dude. You email him, you talk to him. The message comes up. I'm currently very hard at work on my 3rd book, so I may not be able to respond to you. So don't bother Nevin unless you have to. And Nevin is working away. Again, a big thanks to Dominique for Alternity for hosting us. And please grab food, drinks, if you need some crystals, books, obviously. Come meet the authors afterwards, get autographs, pictures, whatever you like. David at Social Hatch, big thank you to our videographer who's making all of us look so pretty and handsome. So thank you, David. I don't usually like to do a self-promotion in between talking about authors, but this has to be very relevant because when I saw the next author, I said, yes, okay, she has to come and we have to do this. Reason why, so book for me is the Bible 3.0, based on the 6 commandments of what I call the chosen life. And exercise, nutrition, sleep, water, let's get those 4 down. And when we're good with those, we're gonna work our way up to yoga meditation. And I can't tell you how many people I meet that I can't do yoga. I won't meditate. It's not for me. It's boring. It's too hot. It's too cold. It's too quiet. Whatever it is, right? And I was one of those people. I can tell you that right now. And part of the thing was, in my own journey, I was very big into blogging. And when I reached my peak, I was driving one day on a Monday to work. I called up my head writer and I said to him, I got good news for you. You're taking over the blog. I am done writing about life. I'm going to go live it now. Goodbye. Did not write for 10 years. Didn't read for 10 years. Just went off to do things. And what did I do? Mainly yoga meditation. So Jane Lee, author, yoga and meditation teacher, well-being coach, medical Qigong practitioner. I saw you're teaching yoga meditation. I said, please, you have to join us. Please, can we do a meditation group after your speech? And Jane was nice enough to agree. So after her talk today, we're going to have a meditation time. As a young mom and corporate professional, Jane was diagnosed with cancer a few years back. And through yoga, meditation, and her energy work and inner work, she now enjoys supporting others on their wellness journeys. I can't tell you, on a personal level, we've all been there at some point or another. My mom went through breast cancer, moved back in with her to see it. And there are people that give up on life, and other people saying, I'm going to thrive, I'm not going to let this get me down, and I'm going to be better than ever. So Jane helps people like my mom out there, and her goal is to connect with your inner peace. Very active on social media, pureleejane.com. Make sure to check it out. You're doing so much good work in the world, and love to meet you, which we are today, and ready to hear your story. So Jane Lee, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Can you hear me? Do I need to turn this on?
I think it's on.
You can hear it? Okay. Thank you, Alternity. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I'm just grateful to be with everyone here. This is my book, The Answer How...
Oh, one sec. Oh, there.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I know I'm generally kind of quiet, so a microphone is good for someone like me. So as Jonathan said, my name is Jane Lee, and my book is The Answer, How to Get the Best Answers to Your Life's Biggest Questions. So how this came about is about 5 years ago. I was in the corporate world and really chasing after that next job and really wanted that executive position. And I was up for a number of different VP positions. And at the same time, my husband and I were also trying to conceive our second child. So I was doing a bunch of fertility treatments. During one of the routine fertility treatments, an ultrasound technician saw a mass in my colon and took the note down. And I'm never anyone to kind of just like sit back. I'm a patient that reads through my notes, does the research, looks through my files. And so long story short, my doctor said, it's probably endometriosis, it's probably wrapped around your colon, it's fine, we're just gonna do a procedure to laparoscopy it off before you have your next round of IVF. A whole bunch of scientific words that, anyway, the point is, I went in thinking I was just gonna have a colonoscopy just to get ready to have my next IVF to try to conceive a second child. And I was working from home, waiting to go in to see the doctor to talk about my test results. And I got a call abruptly from the hospital saying, "Is this Jane? We need to schedule your CT scan like in 2 days," and blah, blah, blah. And I got off the phone. I was kind of in shock because I realized, okay, something is clearly wrong. And within an hour of that call, I got a call from the bank that I'd been speaking with for about 8 months for that dream executive job that I'd always wanted. And they said, okay, we're offering you the job. We want you to come in next week, meet the team, set up some meetings. I was like, okay, I'm coming. And I didn't know what to do. I got off the phone and I literally held my hands up and I looked up. It's like, I felt in that moment that the universe was asking me, what are you going to do? Are you going to choose your health or are you going to choose your career? And I honestly didn't know what I was going to do. So fast forward months later, I'm in a very different place. I am much slower. I am meditating every single day, very deep meditation practice. Actually, I forgot. I will go back to 1 week after my diagnosis. I had sadness, depression, like confusion, all these emotions coming up to me. But one day I woke up 1 week after and everything felt very crystal clear. And I woke up, turned over to my husband, and I said, everything's gonna be fine. Everything is just going to be fine. I knew it, I felt it in my bones. So fast forward a few months later, I was in a deep meditation. And in my deep meditation, I felt myself spontaneously go back to my old self and tell my old self that everything was going to be okay. And when I came back, I realized that it was myself that I told my old self that everything was going to be fine. And I continued on my journey of healing, even though I was told, you can go back to work, everything is fine. I knew deep down it wasn't fine, that there was a reason why I got this in the first place. And unless I addressed those reasons why, things would come back to me. So I went really, really, really slow, which is the opposite of what I was before. Because I was basically a rat on the corporate wheel for a very, very long time. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And this book talks about how I decided on what treatment I was going to do, how I decided what I was going to do with my career, and how I made these pivotal decisions in my life and how I learned to trust them. So it talks about connecting to your body and intuition, yoga, meditation. I used a lot of science. I needed science in the beginning to help me validate the reasons why things were beneficial. I started meditation practice because I knew about the scientific benefits of it. And I share a lot of the scientific research in my book. But as my own journey continued, I let go of the science and I just started trusting when I had certain experiences. And that's how the book progresses as well. So it goes about tuning into your body, intuition, meditation, journaling, addressing your blocks, asking and putting things out there, dream interpretation. So it goes a little more further out, and then trusting yourself. And so I've had people come up to me and tell me secondhand that my book has helped them move across the country, helped them decide to change careers, quit their jobs. And I'm so glad, because if my goal was, if just one person read the book and it helped them become more clear in what to do with their lives, then I'm happy. And I'm a very practical person, so every chapter has a story, and then there's exercises called the work. So I give very specific instructions on how to do the work to figure out what to do with your life. What I don't talk about in my book is that when I had the surgery and they removed 13 inches of my colon, which still had cancer, before the surgery, I had 6 weeks from diagnosis, and I went on a whole holistic journey, did a whole bunch of stuff, because I was convinced I could heal myself. Had the surgery, they biopsied it. 2 months later, it came back, because it took that long for the biopsy results, but there was no cancer in there. So I didn't actually need the surgery. The surgery was the only thing, though, that would slow me down, because I wouldn't have slowed down otherwise. But my next book that I'm working on is going to be called Healing Through Your Body, and it's essentially a guide to intuitive embodiment, because my practice now, my yoga practice, my meditation practice, my energy practice is 100% intuitive. I step onto my mat or wherever I am, and I tune in, and my body moves. I start being moved by energy. I get put into meditations. I do mantras. I do mudras. I do humming. I do tapping. Sometimes it looks like I'm doing martial arts. Sometimes it looks like I'm doing like yoga dance. It's always very different. Sometimes it looks like someone is moving me. But what I've learned is that everyone can tap into energy to help you heal yourself. And so my next book, I want to teach people how to become so intuitively embodied that you understand how to allow energy to heal yourself. So thank you so much for having me here today, and I look forward to speaking with you.
So now we're gonna, thank you very much, Emily. So we're gonna take a pause now from the talk point of view, and now it's gonna be time for a group meditation time. So we're just gonna come back up and, no worries, and do a form of guided meditation for all of us.
Okay, sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, it's all good.
So the way I also teach is 100% intuitively embodied now. So I am a formally trained yoga teacher. I've done a meditation course. I have my own meditation course as well if you're interested. And I offer free meditation masterclass, which you can sign up for at my website. But the way, once my practice started to become intuitive, 2 years after that, I became confident enough to start teaching intuitively, meaning I do not think about what I'm going to say. I don't think about, I used to think, okay, I'm going to say this, then I'm going to tell people to put their hands here, and then no. So I basically tune in, and my intention is to be guided for a practice for the greatest and highest good of everyone here. And then I wait, and it comes out of me. So if you are open to joining me for a guided meditation, I ask you to come in and please sit down. Have your feet firmly planted on the ground. And you can close your eyes, or you can simply look down towards your nose in a soft gaze or the floor. And bring your awareness now to your chest and your heart chakra, the space in the very center of your chest, behind your breastbone, in front of your spine. And bringing your awareness here. Try to soften and relax this space. Dropping your awareness straight down towards your belly, straight down towards the base of your torso, straight down into the soles of your feet, straight down into the earth, straight down towards the core of the earth. Pulling your awareness, bringing your awareness straight down, all the way down through the soles of your feet, down to the ground, into the earth. And on your next inhale, picture, feel, imagine pulling energy up through the core of the earth, pulling up, energy up, energy pulling up into the soles of your feet, moving up through your legs, past your kneecaps, pooling in front of your tailbone, pooling at your root chakra, pulling that energy up your spine, one vertebra at a time, one disc at a time. Allowing that energy to flow all the way up to your upper back, up into your neck and throat. Allowing that energy to move all the way up to the top of your head, your crown chakra. Allow that energy to flow down to the forehead, down the face, down the jaw, the mouth, the neck, front of the chest, pulling down your torso and pooling in your lower dantian, or your belly, in front of your sacral chakra. Bringing your awareness to this space inside your belly. Soften and relax this space. Feeling your breath move in and out. Trying to let go of any tension or tightness here. Moving your awareness straight up a few inches into the space just above your belly button, your solar plexus chakra. Breathe deeply here. Feeling your rib cage expand on both sides on your inhale. And gently contract on your exhale. Soften and relax, letting go of any tightness or tension you may be holding onto here. Pulling your awareness up a couple of inches into your heart chakra, the space in the center of your chest. Relax this space, soften, allowing it to open if that makes sense for you. Moving your awareness up into your neck and throat, your throat chakra. Soften and relax this space. The front, the back, the right and left sides. Letting go of tension or tightness. Moving your awareness up, soften and relax your jaw. Relaxing the back of your head where the top of your neck meets the base of your skull. Relaxing the space behind your eyes. With your eyes closed, looking up towards the center of your forehead. And placing your attention here in your third eye chakra. Softening and relax your eyebrows, your eyelids, your temples. Placing your awareness on this space inside your head, between your eyebrows. Moving your awareness up to the space at the very top of your head, your crown chakra. The space resting at the very top of your head. Moving your awareness up to your 8th chakra, the space above your head, floating above you, placing your attention in the empty space above your head where you are now. Moving your awareness up, inch by inch, foot by foot, meter by meter. Bring your awareness straight up, straight out of the building. Bring your awareness up towards the sky, towards the clouds, moving your awareness up to the Earth's atmosphere, moving your awareness up faster and faster into the dark, empty space. Bring your awareness up to where the sun, the moon, the stars are. And allowing the energy from the sun, the moon, the stars to pool down, to flow straight back down, like a funnel, allowing the energy to pool straight back down, coming back down to the clouds, to the Earth's atmosphere, coming straight back down through the ceiling, coming straight back down to the space above your head, coming straight back down to your crown chakra, down to your third eye chakra inside your head, down to your throat chakra inside your neck and throat, down to your heart chakra in the center of your chest, down to your solar plexus chakra inside your torso, inside your rib cage, down into your sacral chakra in the soft part of your belly, down into your root chakra in front of your tailbone. And release. When you're ready, you can open your eyes or stay here as long as you wish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane, for sharing your story. It's funny when we hear other stories, I don't know if you all do this or not, but you kind of start seeing that person through your own eyes and you think about your stories. And I was hearing Jane's story and I was thinking about my own experiences through her. And it's amazing how many images and thoughts came up that I hadn't thought about in years. And then sitting here and kind of like cleansing it during a meditation now, feeling very grounded. So thank you very much for the inspiration. And we're going to be going from one extreme now to another. The next guest, how do I describe her well? I would say, as I got to meet Peggy and talk to her, I felt like I was meeting Martha Stewart on like 3 Red Bulls. Like, wow, the energy that you brought in for the second you showed up today, amazing. And we are just, as I'm hearing each of the authors and getting to know everybody, we are just so different personalities. We've come from so many different walks of life and have different stories to share. And you can go from one story to another and we're all in the same section, but yet we're in our own universe, so to speak. I remember as Kazra was talking about that and our own little bubbles, and now we formed one new bubble together. So Big, I gotta tell you, when I walked in today, I was excited but nervous, had so many thoughts in my head. And you just took me to another level. So I'm really excited to hear, and as we all are, about your story in your book. It's called The Microdose Diet. I'm going to butcher your last name, Peggy Van de Plasch? Yeah, that's great. I was able to plush. There's no accent aigu or anything. So she spent also 20 years as an executive, venture capitalist, entrepreneur in financial services and tech before discovering the transformative power of psilocybin. She developed the Brain Power Microdose and the 90-day microdose diet. I know, I get emails almost on a daily basis, and so informative, and you got to get on her newsletter. There's so many newsletters through these authors, and every day you get in your email box and you see something different, and it's almost like a form of Tony Robbins energy, but in a different genre, so to speak. You are enhancing personal and professional success, focused on psychedelic powered development. You are offering, Peggy, a 12-week transformation program, combining microdosing with therapies like tapping meditation and journaling. So you're seeing the connections here, right? Her book, More, in capitals, The Microdose Diet, and her online courses have rave reviews. Peggy, you're so active on social media, you're sharing so much information. Couldn't wait to meet you. I'm already uplifted, and now that we're all calmed down, now you're going to bring us up again. So, everybody, Peggy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I also need a mic when I speak. So, Martha Stewart, that's funny. My husband is here. I don't think he believes I'm Martha Stewart at all, but it's a funny comparison. So, my background, similar to you, Jane, was finance, corporate executive, all that great stuff. And one thing I didn't realize through that journey is that I actually had a lot of mental health issue, namely anxiety, stress, depression. And for many people, it comes with the territory. People are like, well, you're in finance, you're a venture capitalist, you're stressed, it's normal. But I think it happened to me when I was a kid. So for me, my baseline was extremely anxious by nature, or by nurture probably actually. And during the pandemic, it really became extremely problematic. And I've had challenges in the past, but I was not very keen on the traditional way to deal with this type of problem, which was whether therapy, which I tried multiple times, or prescribed drugs, which is more, from my perspective, managing symptoms. And life has a way to send you the answer when you're looking for it. And my intuition maybe brought me to psychedelics. And at the time, I was still in finance, so I was reading a lot of publications like, The Economist, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, blah, blah, blah. And over the course of 2 weeks, there were, I don't know how many articles written about psychedelics in these publications that I trusted. So I was like, oh, maybe there is something for me. And I'm from the old school of mind that, psychedelics are drugs, they're bad, you're going to be high, you're going to hallucinate, and all that great stuff, the pink elephants. And once I read in Woman's magazine about moms microdosing mushrooms. I'm like, oh my God, if mom microdose mushrooms, that means it's safe, if a mom does that. And so I did a lot of research, like read clinical studies, whatever, which honestly, you don't need to be a student of biology to understand. There is a conclusion at the top, so you can easily make your own assumptions. So I was like, I'm gonna try it, and it's quite easy in Toronto to actually find mushrooms. And my husband, I actually bought some mushrooms at our massage therapist a few months before. So I'm like, oh well, let's try it, and I really saw a massive difference in my mental health. And who is familiar here with psychedelics? Okay. Who is familiar with microdosing psychedelics? Okay. So the difference between microdosing and macrodosing, well, as the name says it all, is you're taking very, very small dose. So when we speak usually about psychedelics, we have in mind this very big trip for 6-8 hours. You're going to hallucinate, you might have visions, you're going to have all this great stuff. And this is definitely a part of psychedelics. Microdosing has nothing to do with that. The only thing that's in common is the fact that you're using the same substance, the mushrooms. But you're taking extremely small dose, 100 milligrams. While if you're doing a trip, you're taking 3 to 5 grams, so very different. And you actually have no physical, you're not feeling high, you have no hallucination. But what you're having is your nervous system is definitely calming down. But also your brain leverage this ability to rewire itself, neuroplasticities. I'm sure you've heard about it. And so what I did was, I've been a student, like most of you, I'm sure, of personal transformation for like 15 years. And I used a lot of the tools that I learned, visualization, tapping, journaling, and I combined them with my microdosing practice. And basically that book is the book I wished I had like 20 years ago. I really wanted a guide that was a bit your second book, which is how to, and I built it as a 90-day, practice where you can really go from A to B, going from, who you are and hopefully the next version of yourself, and you kind of rinse, repeat as much as you want over your life. And it's really about how can you remove the blocks, the limiting belief. But I use microdosing and other practices to do that because I find psychedelics really go deeper faster and it augments your practice. So I don't think psychedelics is a silver bullet. That's absolutely not what I'm saying, but it is a great tool in the toolkit and it can really augment what you're doing. And so this is my own recipe. This is what I really like, but you can do microdosing psychedelic with yoga, your practice, with what you're going to write with your second book, with, some people do coaching, therapy. And that was really in order to demystify what microdosing is. So I'm probably the only one here who didn't self-publish, but it was still very painful. So if you want to talk as well about the process of working with a publisher or an agent, I'll be more than happy to share my thoughts. I have a podcast as well, so I'm on social media, as you mentioned, so you can always follow me. I also develop my own microdosing product. And any questions you might have, don't hesitate. And again, half the book, or 2/3 is on explaining psychedelics, and the rest is really on giving you the turnkey guide in order to go from point A to point B. So here we go. Was it still Martha Stewart with 3 Red Bulls, or a bit 2 Red Bulls after the meditation?
Martha Stewart on psychedelics.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. That must be interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peggy.
Thank you.
So we're about halfway through the program. We have a few more authors to go. And I knew in organizing this I will have to speak at some point. So I am now here, not as your MC, but as your author. And it's funny because whenever I go up to do public speaking, I don't really like going in with a script. I just like to go in with the flavor of where I'm at and seeing where it's going to go. So everybody feels like story time right now? So I'm going to I'm going to have some therapy right now, and I'm going to be real with you all and just kind of lay it all out. So I'm driving here this morning and early afternoon, I guess, and I'm talking to a person on the phone, and they're asking me, how excited are you about this event? It's been weeks, months in the works now. And I'm like, I'm not excited at all, to be honest. I'm like, so much thoughts are going through my head, and I want everything to go right, and there's so many pieces, and what's going to happen. And I get over here, and I start speaking to the different authors, and I'm in the space, and I get taken back to the book launch. And I'm like, oh my God, I did this again. I put an event together, and I try to make it perfect, and try to think of so many details to the point that I almost make myself sick, and I don't even get to enjoy it. And then once I'm there, I'm like, it's all gonna be fine. Why am I worrying so much about this, And it's, when I think about my life history and I see a pattern, I'm like, I fight it on a daily basis. Kazra and I were talking about this before, and it's like, here I am today and wrote a book about all this and made life transformations, and yet it's still a daily struggle. I'm going to take you back to when I talked about having writer's block and reader's block and where I was at in life. I forgot to mention that I was in my early 30s. I was in really poor health condition-wise. I was one of those people that never gained weight, could eat whatever they wanted. So I was in high school, and I would go to 7-Eleven, and I'd have 2 hot dogs on a stick and Twinkies and a Slurpee, and that was my lunch, And didn't exercise, barely exercised. And one day, I remember my niece, we went on some sort of hike as a family, and I'm in my early 30s, and shows me the picture of us together. And I looked at it, And I started crying. I'm like, oh my God, I'm big. It's not my pants shrinking in the wash. It's actually happened. When did that happen exactly? And I mean, I see myself in the mirror, but I saw myself where I looked like in high school. I didn't see myself where I was in my 30s. And I go to see my doctor. My doctor's like, you have the cholesterol of a bad 70-year-old. Like, you are not in a good place, dude. You need to fix this immediately. And all of that kind of compounding, that's when I made that Monday morning call to my writer and I said, you're taking over the blog. I'm going to go live life. And my solution was, I'm going to go to yoga. Yoga's going to fix it all because I'm going to fix it and I'm going to feel good. I'm going to look good. So I show up at the yoga studio. I sign up at the yoga studio. I do the research. There's one right beside my office. They're opening up a second location beside my house. I said, perfect. This was meant to be. So I have to fill out the form. Why do you want to join yoga? Because I want to be healthy and have a sexy yoga body. That's what I wrote to them. That's where I was at in life. I sign up, do one class, get pneumonia, out of commission for 6 weeks. Once I'm good, come back again, and the journey begins. And about 10 years later, I started reflecting on life. I had a streak of practicing yoga 395 days in a row at my studio. One time I went 365 days in a row. I started going to Buddhist temple. After experiencing yoga and meditation at my studio, I started going to different temples and trying to find the answers, so to speak. And eventually, I just stopped feeding myself my own bullshit and I just started living. You know, I realized I'm working so hard, I'm tensing up because I got to achieve stuff all the time. I never stopped and just let it go and just was. And I reached a point where, you know, I always thought I was going to write a book. From about grade 3 on, I told my mom, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to write a book. I started and stopped so many times. I went to New Mexico, I went to visit my uncle, I was 17. It was the first time I was ever in a place with clear skies, no noise. I'm like, this is perfect. I wrote 6 chapters of a book, went back and looked at it 2 months later. I said, this is way too dark, not going to happen. I burnt the book, never, wasn't going to continue. I still remember the premise of it. And then I remember it was in December, and it was December a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden, when I was least pushing for it and I'd given up completely on writing a book, I saw it. I saw the title, I saw all the chapter headings, I ran to my computer and I just started typing like mad. I think it's 21 chapters, maybe 22. Almost all those chapters verbatim for the title, the order was in that download. I wrote chapter 1, I wrote chapter 2, I stopped. I thought, whoa, it's actually come back to me. 10 years I'm not writing, not even reading really, and I'm feeling it. I left it for 2 months. And I came back and I thought to myself, why am I not writing? Why am I blocked? What is going on? And I thought to myself, you know what? Because you don't know if you're on the right track. You're not experienced enough to know this. What are you going to do? And I thought to myself, well, I remember going to a book launch and I met a publisher. I'm going to reach out to her, see if she remembers me. Maybe she can help me. Maybe the universe brought it together. I didn't want to go to that book launch, to be honest, but a buddy of mine had published and I said, I came as a friend. He was a friend from the yoga studio because we had 5, 6 of us. We were the brogies, as I called us. We were the 6 a.m. class. So at his party to support him that I didn't want to be at, I met this publisher. And then I reached out to her 10 years later. I said, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, Wake and Press. Okay. Do you remember me, Lindsay? She was, oh, yeah. You were at Stu's party. I go, whoa, you do remember me. Cool. So I got a book idea. I just want to know if I'm on the right track. Can I feed you some stuff and just see if like I'm not looking to write this book in my head. I'm not looking for anything other than just kind of like a feel and direction. She said, sign the NDA, send me what you got. So I sent her a title. I sent her 2 pages of headings and 2 chapters, maybe 10 pages. Sent her, come back, maybe a week later, we do a phone call. She comes back to me, she goes, I love it. We have to do this book. I'm in. You think I'd be overjoyed at this, right? Like this has been my whole life and everything else, and it's finally come to fruition. My reaction to it, verbatim, are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with you? 10 pages? And I'm like, something's gotta be wrong here. This doesn't feel right, you know? And now I'm looking back and I'm like, why couldn't I just let myself be happy? Why couldn't I believe in myself more? Why can't I believe in the process? It took us 3 weeks of going back and forth to understand, because I'm a partner at a law firm, I'm a real estate corporate lawyer, I have a bunch of stuff in my life, obviously, doing that. I thought to myself, how am I going to have the time? How am I going to do this? And 3 weeks, she says to me, look, if we're going to start this process, it's got to happen. What is holding you back? And I said to her, if it's going to happen, I need to know you believe in me like I believe in the process. Where do you see this going? And what do you think this book could do in your estimation? She looked at me dead in the eye. She said to me, you're going to be the next David Goggins. You're going to be big. I looked at her. I guess we're writing a book then. And what I did was I went up every Sunday to my cottage, and I would write from about 7 a.m. or so till about 12, 1 p.m. I'd have a coffee, take a shower, chill, 5-6 hours uninterrupted every single time. One of the authors was talking about the kind of process and the ending. I think it was you, Kaz, was talking about the ending and how it kind of worked together. So funny thing is, I'm about halfway through the book. Send off 2 chapters and have my book meeting. So every week we meet, we talk about the chapters, seeing where the process is. We got to tweak where the comments. As we're finishing the meeting, she says to me, the editor says to me, you said you sent 2 chapters. Where are they? I'm like, I sent them to you. They're in the drive. She looks in the drive. There's no chapters there. I go, what do you mean there's no chapters there? And I'm starting to shake, right? And she said, yeah, they're not there. It's okay. You have a backup, right? I'm like, there's no backup. It's in the cloud. I assume that it automatically backs it up. Well, I didn't get a chance to back it up for you. So, and I'm starting to go into convulsions now. And I'm like, how did this happen? There's no way. You understand, if we don't find these chapters, I cannot recreate this anymore. I'm freaking out. I had a good day. I actually wrote 2 chapters in a day. And then I realized, wait a minute, I was cleaning out my Google Drive. And I was deleting a bunch of pictures because my thing was getting, if I create the file, it puts it in my folder, not yours. I contact Google. I explained to them, I didn't just empty it, I deleted it. Can I get my stuff back? They said, sir, within 36 hours, 48 hours, if anything you deleted should come back. It came back within an hour, and the chapters are there. First of all, from there on in, I started backing up everything. But I went to bed that night, and I felt inspiration like I never felt before. I was awake and alive, like I brought something back from the dead. I came to my computer that next day. I wrote the ending of the book. I saw the last chapter. It's it. It's in. So I've written from the beginning to the middle, the ending, and now we're going to go and come back and write the 3rd part of the book. I hand it off. We have a meeting the next week about the ending. And what is the reaction I get? What the is this? Are you kidding me? I'm like, what? This has nothing like the book. Why is this the ending? What are you talking about? This is not at all in the flavor. I said, trust me. Once you get to the ending, the book is done. We've already talked about everything. We don't have to rehash it. Now we can sit and savor it and go off in a new direction. And when I finally finished the book itself and we had finished all the other chapters, both editors came back to me and said to me, I get it now. I feel it. Thank you. But it's so funny when you're in an artistic point of view, how you start to have these debates and you're going back and forth and people see things in one way, other people see things in a different way. And sometimes you agree to disagree. Sometimes you go off in a new direction and sometimes they accept it in life. And I gotta say, when I came to the point of doing an audiobook, after all of that and thinking I'm losing chapters, coming up with that ending, coming to the audiobook portion of it, I thought this is going to be like a walk in the park. We had a couple of discussions beforehand about how audiobooks work, and I got to say, I thought as a podcaster, everything, it would be the easiest thing on the planet, and I came to realize it's so much easier to write than it is to read the words, be able to speak perfectly in the right order and pronunciation and everything else. And it was such a process that by the time I was finished the audiobook, I was done. I still don't even know if I'm going to write another book anymore, but I think it's because it's still fresh. We published in January that I kind of leave it to be. And the audiobook producer, same thing where at the end, he said to me, what the hell is with this ending? And I said to him, bro, trust in the process. There's a thing to it. And when we actually put it together with music and everything else, he said to me, I get it. I get it. And this is not just about creating this event. This is not just about creating the book and the audiobook. It's all about life. You come to an event like this and there's great people with energy and everything else. There's times where you go to a bookstore, and I just came back from a long road trip. I covered through the US. I did a father-son road trip with my son, and we made it to San Diego by car and Arizona. I show up at one of the bookstores. It is 45 Celsius out in Arizona. I am sweating like crazy. I had just been driving for 17 hours. I'm exhausted. I get to the store in time. Nobody shows up. I'm sitting there. 1 hour goes by, 2 hours go by, nobody's there. As about to close up, a young man shows up. He says to me, "Did I make it in time?" I said, "Yes, you did." He said to me, "Phew, okay, I heard about this." And we started talking for about half an hour, 45 minutes. And he's telling me, "I'm in my 30s. I know I look 20, but you know what? Bro, like I was working a job I didn't like. I didn't like how I looked. I didn't love myself. And I tried to figure out the systems and stuff like that. And I saw you on social media and you talked about body, mind, and soul and how they work and how to get the commandments down and enlightenment and manifestation. And I need this shit in my life." That's what he says to me. And when we finished up, I thought to myself, I would rather have one of him than 30 other people that just are wavering by. This is a person I connect with. This is a person who's going to read it. And now we have a kind of a kinship. That's the greatest feeling in the world, you know. When I started all this, tongue in cheek, I never thought I was going to be the next David Goggins, to be quite frankly. But it kind of motivated me. I was like, this is cool, you know. And as I finished the book now, and when everything was done, and the book is sitting there, and it's sitting on the case in my wall, and I look at it, I think to myself, if I never sell another copy, but I produce the greatest work I could, and I can help one person at a time, that's all it's about at the end of the day. Chapter 1 in the book is love, you know, and people think about love like I want to fall in love, I want to be married, I want to have kids, everything else. I scale back at the end of the day. We all think about love, external love, and everything else. Learn to love ourselves. You know that guy I told you about that, you know, had those issues and the doctor told him this and he didn't know where he was going. He went off to do yoga meditation. I think a lot of it, even the same guy who showed up today, it's because he didn't love himself. He didn't believe in himself, you know, and it's a daily battle with that, and it's not easy. And for all of us, I know we experience it at different times or another, but you know, there's going to be different books you're going to read, there's different things you're going to consume. But every single time, you know, you do that or you hear someone's story, think about yourself, you know, and learn to love yourself and think of how you could turn your life and be the best you that can be. Not the one, you know, that your parents thought you were going to be, not the one that your spouse or your boss or your kids, whoever. Look within you, take, you know, embrace what gifts you have in life. Don't try to be somebody you're not, and just be happy and just love, you know. That's the message at the end of the day that I'd like to send out from my book. Believe that there's a bigger purpose. I know it's called the Bible 3.0, but it's not a religious book. It's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing, because I think we should all take that as a manual. We should all learn, you know, take care of ourselves, take care of our minds, body, and souls, hug ourselves, try to envision that best life for us of what we want, and just be happy. And that's the message I want to share today. So thank you for everybody for giving your energies. Thank you for giving me energy. And I'm so glad we all did this. So we're getting close to the end. We have a couple more authors left. So thank you everybody for consuming. And again, we have tarot card reading and nice food and drinks obviously consumed here at the cafe. Aviva Mayers is next. You wanted to set up a table? Okay, so everybody had a bit of a break now, and we have two more authors to go. It's funny. It's funny how quickly time goes, and just had great talks and getting to know everybody, and so much more experiences to go. So I'm going to introduce the next speaker now, Aviva Mayers. Her book, If Only I Had Known, Integrative and Alternative Paths to Recovery from Breast Cancer. Aviva, being a psychoanalyst and psychotherapist in private practice in Toronto. If Only I Had Known is essential reading for anyone diagnosed with breast cancer. It provides a unique perspective on treatments that your doctor may not tell you about. Knowing about these options could improve your life both physically and psychologically. So without further ado, Aviva, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, and thanks for organizing this. Unlike Jonathan, I do have a script. I'm a better writer than I am a public speaker. So As Jonathan said in the introduction, this is a book about breast cancer, and it's really about all cancers or many cancers. It's a book about options for treatment, options for treatment, management, and prevention of breast cancer and other cancers, both within mainstream medicine and in the alternative and integrative world. It's a book about how to tend to the soil in which cancer grows and prevent getting those cancers in the first place. It promotes your role, as with Jane's speech, your own role in healing, while also presenting and discussing scientific research. This is the book. The book, If Only I Had Known, captures what I felt after a year of grueling treatment for breast cancer 17 years ago. If only I had known what I came to know after researching and writing this book, I would have made different choices for my own treatment. And maybe I wouldn't even have come down with breast cancer in the first place. Many interventions I speak about in this book are relevant for men as well as women. For example, hormone imbalance contributes to many sexual hormone cancers, such as breast, ovarian, prostate. So balance your hormones. An inflammatory process generates tumors in many different cancers. So find a way to keep your inflammation down in your body. When you hear the word cancer, the options you probably are most familiar with are surgery, chemo, and radiation. And you probably have heard horror stories about the debilitating side effects of toxic chemo in particular. Well, you may not know you have many more options than your doctor commonly discusses with you. If you ever receive a diagnosis of cancer, make sure to research those options within mainstream medicine and in the alternative world. You have time. Cancer generally takes 10 to 15 years to show itself as a tumor. Now, a little about writing this book. When I returned to Canada from Norway, where I had been living with my ex-husband, a friend suggested I enroll in the familial breast cancer study at Women's College Hospital. Familial because my mother had had breast cancer and had 3 subsequent recurrences. Despite that, she lived an active life, an active and healthy life in many ways, until 98, attributing her long life to the health, despite the many health challenges, to avoiding doctors' orders to do chemo and to her daily use of propolis, a bee product that boosts the immune system and that is made from resin from a tree in which the bees inject their saliva. Now back to my story. When I was diagnosed 17 years ago, the shocking news came a year after my marriage suddenly ended. It had been a bleak time for me, and 2 weeks after a routine hospital visit, followed by numerous hospital tests, the doctor interrupted my busy workday, calling me from her cottage. I didn't expect this, she said, but it's cancer. Me and cancer, it didn't fit. You always think bad things happen to other people. By the way, it is well known that cancer diagnoses often follow a major life stress event. Though I had doubts about the standard treatment that I was offered, I reluctantly opted for radiation and chemo after surgery, out of fear and ignorance, really. Like a deer in the headlights, I was ill-prepared and looked to authority for the answers, and the authority in this case were the oncologists. However, the truth is that doctors can't keep up with the rapidly changing information, and they're often blinded by the pharmaceutical companies. If I had paid attention to the statistics they threw at me, for example, that chemo only makes a difference in the single digits, or that radiation doesn't prevent a distant recurrence, I might have chosen differently. As my treatment progressed and I felt increasingly debilitated, my doubts grew about these harsh treatments, decimating my immune system with terrible toxins like radiation and chemo when my immune system was already so compromised that I got cancer in the first place, just did not make sense to me. So I felt I had to look elsewhere to repair the damage and bolster my ailing immune system. By the way, I don't know if you know, but chemo is derived from mustard gas. and it was adopted by the pharmaceutical companies after the Second World War, but it had been used during the bombing campaigns in southern Italy in World War I, and it was noticed that people got sick and died because their immune systems were so decimated, and their DNA had been altered in the process, which is what it does to us as well in some cases. So this tells you about how toxic it is. So I continued on my journey, and I read remarkable stories of recoveries, like Suzanne Summers' book on integrative and alternative practitioners in the US. And I pondered the questions that these books raised about conventional cancer treatments. Breast cancer and other cancers have reached epidemic proportions, but there is still much uncertainty about their treatments and how to cure them. I came to the realization that whatever kind of cancer you have, it's a systemic problem. It's not a local one like breast, prostate, colon, whatever. You've got to change the soil, back to the soil in which the cancer grew, with diet, supplementation, lifestyle, hormones, attending to dental issues, and so on. So my wish to inform other women about the many gentler options for recovery and prevention planted the seeds for this book. And also, the journey was part of my journey to get back to feeling strong again. I realized there was no such book in Canada, and I began by interviewing patients who incorporated alternative treatments in their recovery, as well as professionals working in the fields of cancer who had thoughts on the origins of cancer, the utility of traditional, alternative, and integrative interventions, and their thoughts on how not to get cancer in the first place. The book took me 8 years to write in my spare time, and it took me halfway around the world to meet and be treated by a Chinese traditional doctor in Hong Kong. The more I wrote and informed myself, the better I felt, and the more control I felt psychologically over this elusive disease. As I wrote and rewrote, my little puppy, Sweet Pea, lay beside me with this watchful eye. He grew into an adult, then a senior, until he finally succumbed to cancer as the writing of the book finally came to an end. I'm now going to read a few sections from the book, a few selections from the book, to give you a brief flavor of preventive measures that you can take in your mouth. One of the many things I learned from my naturopath while doing my research was the importance of attending to oral health. Teeth are an oft-neglected area that can contribute to disease in various organs in the body, and not an area that I had ever thought much about beforehand. Oral health and general health are inseparable. The mouth is the gateway through which infection enters the rest of your body. Bleeding gums are one doorway for bacteria to enter. Did you know that we have more bacteria in our mouths than any animal mouth? And oral bacteria that enters the rest of the body can diminish our immune system and damage organs like the heart and the lungs. Oral bacteria has been found in pancreatic cancer, in the brains of Alzheimer's patients, and people with diabetes with good oral health have better glucose readings. Traditional Chinese medicine notes that teeth are on acupuncture meridians related to different organs in your body. Studies have found a smorgasbord of heavy metals used in dentistry, such as nickel, chromium, cadmium, and mercury, in the breast tissue of women with breast cancer. So one of the first things that I did was to remove my amalgam fillings, that silver stuff that dentists used to always fill teeth with in the past, and some still do. It's 50% mercury, and it off-gases for life. So how many people in this room have silver fillings? One person. You have silver fillings. According to some studies, mercury from dental amalgam fillings is the #1 source of mercury exposure in humans. It exceeds any residue that we ingest from fish. Mercury vapors are triggered when we drink hot liquids or we eat, or if the temperature in the mouth is over 14 degrees, as it always is. Chewing things like seeds, nuts, gum, grinding, clenching, they can all cause amalgam to release vapors, which are then inhaled into your lungs, or they enter your body through mucous membranes and blood. Studies have found that after chewing, people with amalgam fillings have more than 20 times more mercury vapor in their mouths than those without mercury fillings. Drilling amalgam out is another route that mercury gets into your body. Once pulverized through drilling, it travels through blood, mucous membranes, or by being inhaled directly into the lungs and making its way to brain, liver, kidneys, fatty tissue, and it's harder there for the body to get rid of it. So the removal process, the process of having this silver filling removed is really important because in 30 seconds, the mercury vapors can affect your thyroid if your thyroid isn't protected. So be sure if you have it taken out to have a dentist with proper equipment have it do the removal process. Root canals are another loaded issue. How many people have root canals here? I've got a root canal. If a root canal is performed, the infection in the tooth is cleaned, disinfected, and sealed. But many articles report that it's impossible to adequately clean out the millions of side canals or the dentin tubules around the root canal. Therefore, the root canal remains chronically infected. Leftover toxins are able then to travel down through the gum, ligament, bone, and bloodstream to organs and to various tissues around the body, possibly contributing to an inflammatory process, which inflammation can produce tumors. That's how tumors are produced. Dental implants have become very popular these days when a tooth has to be extracted. Does anybody have a dental implant here? Nobody? A dental implant exercises the jawbone and stops it disintegrating. In the past, titanium implants were commonly used, but the newest generation of implants from zirconium are the most biocompatible. But some medical practitioners believe that an implant is a foreign body and therefore can generate an inflammation, including my mother's oncologist who told her never to have a dental implant. So just to conclude, remember you are, as Jane has already talked about, you are a central ingredient in your sense of wellness, and exploring the many possibilities that your doctor may not tell you about will promote good health. Tending to your soil in this way will contribute to your psychological and physical well-being. Thank you. I just want to make an announcement separate from this, that I am part of Writers and Editors Network of Canada. It's a group that meets once a month for a breakfast meeting. And we love to have aspiring writers and people that have published books come and join us once a month for this breakfast meeting. It's held in Six Points Plaza near Islington Station. You can get there by subway to Islington Station. And we have guest speakers that come, people that have published books every month. So, you know, we would love it if anybody is interested in joining. If you are, come and see me about it.
Well, thank you very much to Aviva. And any rock and roll fans here by chance? Anybody been following the whole Jane's Addiction scandal? So they were supposed to have one of their shows in Toronto, and they did not make it there. I'm on the road. I was in Tulsa at the time, and I'm reading about this. And I'm watching the video, and a band on stage. They've done about 7-8 songs. They haven't finished yet. No encore. One guy punches another guy out, and they go off the stage. Show is canceled. Next show is canceled. The tour is over. We do not have that issue here, so not to worry. We're almost at the end of the show, so now it's time for the encore. And we're fortunate enough that our last speaker, she's going to join us shortly. She actually was speaking at another event, and so we're trying to figure out the schedule. And I don't know if you've ever had, you ever think with like your best friends or close friends, you have 2 or 3, 4 of you, and you're trying to figure out schedules, so you're emailing or texting or WhatsApp each other. Okay, we do Friday night. No, I'm busy. Can we do Thursday? No, I'm gone from vacation. Can we do it in 2 weeks from now? Trying to coordinate 3, 4 people ain't that easy, right? Now try to coordinate 8 people plus the events location could be challenging. And so at the end of it, we had 2 different dates, and we had 99% on one and not as many on the other. And our last speaker said to me, I got this other event, and am I going to make it on time? I got to speak for 3 hours. I said, you're going to have more than enough time. It's close by, yes. So our last speaker, Dr. Iris Gildia, so coming to us after 3 hours of speaking, she's our encore. Her book, The Poetry of Belonging, Healing with the Language of the Wound. She's got her drink. She's going to be ready to go. We have a lot of doctors in the house here. I've noticed a lot of author doctors, a lot of doctor authors, whichever order you want to say it in. And I'm amazed at the diversity of the people and the personalities that we have here at Alternity. And I was saying this to a book club that I was at a little while ago. It's one thing to pick up a book that you just see the cover, it looks interesting, you read the back of it, and then it's another thing when you actually get to meet the person behind it, hear their words, hear their thoughts. And this is where this book festival came about. The idea was, now when you go to Alternity and you look at the stands there, you actually know these people now. You know intimately, you've met them, you know what they're about, and reach out to them and message them on social media and say, hey, I picked up your book, I read it, can I get an autograph? What did you mean by this? Here's my story. I can probably each of the authors raise their hand and say, but when people reach out to you the most, you notice that they're always talking about their story. That's the first thing, right? And that's a great thing, because the idea as an author is not so people know you as the author of your book. It's really so people can see themselves and they can tell their stories. And so Iris, as a doctor, professor of book and media studies at St. Mary's College at U of T, evolutionary astrologer, spiritual teacher, and community arts facilitator. I thought I wear a lot of hats, and I thought I was a busy guy. I feel like such a slouch compared to these other authors. You all are involved in so many things that I really give you credit for. I mean, here we are at one event, she's doing two. And when she's not teaching or writing, you can find Iris with her dog in the woods or walking along the Salish Sea. We're going to learn more about healing and trauma today. Thank you for finding a way to meet us here today. You're our encore, Iris Gildia, everyone.
Thank you. Do I have to talk into this or no?
It's up to you. You can talk without the mic, with the mic.
I'm going to talk without the mic, as long as you can all hear me. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you for including me. I love this space of Alternity, so it's so nice to be here. And I am going to talk with you about my book, which is called The Poetry of Belonging, Healing with the Language of the Wound. This came out in April with a local Toronto press called Mad and Crypt Theology Press. They're a press that's really devoted to centering stories, experiences of marginalized folks, voices that are silenced. And so a little bit more about me. I do wear a lot of hats, and I am sorry that I missed others speaking. I was at an evolutionary astrology event where I was speaking, and now I'm here. This book is all about healing. So it is about healing with really any type of trauma, but this book is focused on what we kind of call complex trauma, especially childhood trauma. I myself am a survivor of childhood abuse and violence within the family. And part of the work that I do in my hat as a professor at U of T is as a feminist trauma theorist. And also I'm trained in expressive arts therapy. And I come from a kind of lineage of trauma work that pushes against a lot of very traditional psychiatry, traditional trauma theory, and works in this field that's called survivor-centered work. And this book is all about how poetry and art and nature and spirituality are essential for healing. And so this book does a lot of things, okay? So it is, on the one hand, kind of divided into two parts. The first part is a little bit more situating the ideas I'm talking about. Why is poetry so healing? Why is art healing? Why do a lot of survivors and folks that live with complicated trauma find more embodied healing when we're not forced to sit in talk therapy and necessarily talk about things in a certain way? And it looks at the history of trauma theory and how our bodies and minds are actually designed to work with spirituality, to work with art, to come into different healing ways. It also is part of my story. And my story is only told in poetry for the most part here. It is in a genre that's called autoethnography, and that is where we use our own experiences in order to change paradigms from the idea that a lot of people who write psychology theory haven't necessarily lived through the experiences that they're talking about, whether it's because of gender, class privilege, race. There's a lot of different intersections of identity, but there's a strong tradition, especially in academia, of research being done about people where those people don't get to center their own voices and experiences and say what works for us. What does healing look like for us? So this is really working with survivor-centered ways of approaching healing. And it's really about the way that nature and spirituality for myself have been the most healing thing in the world. And it's all about how we can come into different experiences of belonging, especially when we've had experiences where we've either felt isolated, been isolated, continue to be isolated by different social inequities, and also, of course, with childhood trauma. It sounds really, really serious and heavy, but I swear it's joyful. And it's written, so the way that it's written is, I actually wrote this in dialogue with the ocean, with the Salish Sea, which Jonathan mentioned, which is on the West Coast. So I spend my time between Toronto and BC. And there's the water that kind of comes up from the States and then goes along Canada, and that's the Salish Sea. And for me, nature and the ocean has just been the wisest teacher, really, in my life. And I gained so much from that relationship. So I'm just going to read the first page and give you just a sense of the voice, and also prove to you that it's not written in the heaviness that I've been talking. I have been in love with the Salish Sea since my late 20s. While I grew up in New England and took trips to the Atlantic Ocean, it was the wilds of the Salish Sea that broke straight through the protective numbing I'd worn over my psyche and heart since early childhood. There was something about the Salish Sea, the waters of the Pacific Ocean that curve up and flow around the northwest shores of the United States and Canada. When we met, my protective sheath crumbled almost instantly. Its waters spoke to me in a way I had not been spoken to before, taught me about myself and about my journey in this life. As I stood on the shore and watched the dance of those blue depths rising and washing back upon themselves with white-capped waves, there is nothing that describes what happened to me other than the rapture that comes when we fall in love. This relationship with the ocean has been the truest and most sustaining of my life. It would be a decade after that love at first sight meeting when I came to buy a small cabin in British Columbia, a 10-minute walk to the Salish Sea, and began to live between Toronto, where I teach at U of T, and close to the shores of the Salish Sea. We continue to have a steady rhythm of proximity and distance in our relationship, and I am reminded of this relationship now as I sit to write this introduction in the little room I've rented on Malcolm Island. It is nighttime, and outside my window it is pitch black. I stood there a few minutes ago before sitting at my small writing table. I saw only a dark void. No stars in the sky, no lights in the distance. Only darkness met my gaze, a seemingly infinite void, a void accompanied by the most soothing of soundscapes, waves of the Salish Sea watching gently up onto the shore and back out to sea. As I looked out at that void, I could not see her there, the ocean that returned me to myself, but I could hear her. There is something in this moment of staring out at infinite darkness, having no ability to see what is there, but knowing it is here and knowing its presence and life force is vital to my own. This experience for me captures what it is to be a survivor of complex childhood trauma. I believe that we survivors are experts at seeing in the dark. We learn to understand the contours and textures of living in that realm. Those textures and contours speak a language that our society does not talk about, that many do not even know exists. As a result, we are systematically taught to forget that we understand this rich and implicit language. My love with the Salish Sea helped me to remember. It reminded me that I already knew how to speak this language, not with my mind, but with my body and my own spirit of survival. Throughout this book, I refer to this language as the language of the wound. It is also, I will show, the poetry of belonging. And so this book is about the poetry of belonging and how we all have access to it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iris.
My pleasure.
Folks, we had a schedule of 2 to 5. We started very fashionably late. We had a couple of technical items to take care of, including finding an outlet. And we had our final band come on for the encore, and we met well within the amount of time, which is awesome. Does anybody want to share any thoughts or Q&A at all? Most of the authors are still here at all. So this is the opportunity if you want to chat. Otherwise, everybody's hanging back. So there's tables and books set up. So if people want to purchase and get autographs, they can. This was the first annual Spiritual Chosen Book Festival. After experiencing it with the my book launch, I gotta say I'm already have ideas thinking of the second annual one for 2025. So my brain kind of works that way. So I think it's awesome. I think it's great bringing in local authors at Alternity and being able to share the energy and thoughts and passions. And it gives everybody a year to think about what they want to talk about. I got a few thank yous I got to say as we wrap up today. First and foremost, to each and every one of the authors. Any of you that came up to me and said to me, what was the cost of it? It's all that. I told them, stop. This is about energy. The greatest gift, the most valuable thing anybody can give you is time. And every single one of those people took the time out of their schedules on a Saturday to come hang out with us, and that was the most valuable gift they could, coming up with their speeches and thoughts. So a big round of applause to each of the authors today for joining us and giving us their time. You're all awesome. To Alternity and Dominique, I gotta say, from the moment I spotted this place has made my life so much better and so much easier. I love eating here, I love chilling here, I love having events here. So thank you to Alternity, and may you continue to have great events like this till the end of time, because this is a really great spot and more people should know about it, so please spread the word. To Yulika, our tarot card reader and palm reader, for those of you that have not discovered where your future lies and you do want to uncover that Pandora's box, Yulika can help you out, so thank you, Yulika. I'll come see you soon. David at Social Hatch. So David is the one with his co-pilot there that is doing our video and pictures today, and you'll be seeing all of us up on social media. So David, thank you so much for joining us. And last but not least, of course, is the readers. You know, when people came to me and said to me, are you going to write a book? What is the point? I don't know if you heard, but there's a thing called the internet, and I don't know if there's still libraries or not. I can tell you, I went across so many stores in the US, right from the East Coast all the way to San Diego. I've lost count of how many stores I was in. All sorts of shapes and sizes. There were stores that were this size with like 100,000 books in every single corner. There were bigger ones, smaller ones, Barnes & Noble types. And people are coming in constantly. They are buying books. They're going for certain sections. It's amazing to sit in a bookstore for 3 hours with diverse content and watching who comes in, where they're going, the books they pick up. It's fascinating, but reading is alive and well. There's something magical. One of the authors was talking about having a physical book in your hand. And I was one of those kids, the perfectionist parents that would take me to the library every single Saturday or Sunday. I had to pick out 7 books, and I had to read a book a day, and they would quiz me on every single book. And that's where my hatred and then love of reading and writing began. And for all of us there, you know, we all hope to sell millions of books and reach a lot of people, but we do it because we love it. We love writing, we love sharing ideas, and love seeing the reactions. So for the readers that are keeping books and reading alive, thank you so much for joining us and for spreading the word, and have a fabulous weekend, everyone. Thank you.